Crunchy goodness for hunger on the go.
Tonight, on First at 9 this Wednesday, the 22nd of January 2025. Cleaning the PTA. Cabinet paper to abolish the Prevention of Terrorism Act to be presented to the Cabinet of Ministers in the coming week. Continuous support. World Bank reaffirms support for government's commitments and reveals plans to finance 3 key projects over the next 3 months, totaling $200 million. Bilateral ties. Sri Lanka will foster bilateral ties with all nations, says the Foreign Minister. Ready to proceed with Trincomalee oil refinery if India agrees. Imminent shortage. Ceylon Chamber of Coconut Industries urges government to permit the import of 200 million coconuts within the next few months to avoid possible shortage.
Chilo Dairy, Sri Lanka Kiren Perata. ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දෙනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟමැති ෆාමසින් ලබාගත හැක.
කන්ට පරිස්සම් කරගත්තොත්
අපි පරිස්සම්.
Asian Paints Causeway Aquasafe වැස්සත් මට්ටුවෙන් ගෙදරත් තිස්නේ.
From Derana, this is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9 on Sri Lanka's most trusted news source, Derana. I'm Tarindu Mahendra, joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and from around the world. In your top story tonight, Minister of Foreign Affairs Vijitha Herath says during President Anura Dissanayaka's recent state visit to China, Sri Lanka affirmed its commitment to upholding the One China policy and that in turn China vowed to support Sri Lanka in safeguarding its sovereignty. Speaking at a government media conference, the Foreign Minister highlighted the visit as an opportunity to strengthen ties with China, but added that the new Sri Lankan government will foster bilateral relations with all nations. When queried on the proposed Indian oil refinery in Trincomalee, Foreign Minister Herath said government is ready to proceed with the project contingent on agreement from India. The President's visit to China was another step in strengthening our international relations. During the visit, we were able to further enhance China-Sri Lanka relations. Our government pledged to uphold the One China policy and in turn, China vowed to support in preventing any activity that violates Sri Lanka's sovereignty and territorial integrity. Not only China, we will further strengthen our relations with India, Japan, America and Russia. The new government will foster bilateral relations with all countries and move forward while correctly managing our international relations.
Oil refinery ගැන ප්‍රශ්නේ මේක 2023 නොවැම්බර් වල තමයි කැබිනට් අනුමැතිය හම්බෙන්නේ. ඒවකට හිටපු විදුලි බල බලශක්ති අමාත්‍ය කංචන විජේසේකර මහත්මයා දාපු X පණිවිඩයේ සඳහන් වෙනවා මේ ආයෝජනයේ සමස්ත වටිනාකම ඇමරිකානු ඩොලර් බිලියන 4.5ක් කියලා. එතකොට මේක මේ පාර ගිවිසුම් ගත වීමේදී 3.7ක් උනේ කොහොමද? ඒක සම්පූර්ණ වැරදි කතාවක්.
This is a completely false statement. I have the relevant agreement and it clearly states that the investment is $3.715 billion.
මේ ව්‍යාපෘතියෙන් කොහොමද ලංකාවට විදේශ විනිමය ලබා ගන්න? එතකොට මේකේ නිෂ්පාදන පිටරටට යවනවද? ඒ වයින් ලංකාවට බදු වෙනවද? අනිත් එක මොන වෙළඳපොළ වලටද මෙතනින් නිෂ්පාදනය කරන තෙල් යවන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ?
The primary objective of this project is to export the refined oil. Discussions are ongoing regarding supplying a certain portion of it to the Sri Lankan market. The decision regarding which markets this oil will be exported to lies with Sinopec, not us. What we are doing is supplying the land and infrastructure.
Minister, how soon are you all hoping to break ground on the Sinopec refinery?
As soon as possible. We are willing to continue a fast-track development program.
Have you decided how many hectares of land would be given to this oil refinery?
500 acres. They are asking for another 200 acres, but we have not finalized it yet.
Sri Lanka has also agreed to have a fuel pipeline with India. So how is Sri Lanka hoping to balance these two elements?
We have not signed such a agreement with India. The discussions are going on. When we visited India, both countries agreed to continue conversations furthermore. That's only. There is no any agreement regarding pipeline.
India has asked for an oil refinery. Why do we need two oil refineries?
No, India has not asked such a refinery. India has not asked. We want to start such a refinery in Trincomalee. If India will agree, we are ready for that.
So on the foreign researchers, under the current SOP, do you have to get the approval from India or inform India if there is a foreign vessel coming to Sri Lanka?
No, there is no such a requirement.
පිරිපුන් ජීවිතයකට ඔබ සමගින් පෙරට Union Assurance.
Welcome to Cinnamon Life, South Asia's biggest entertainment hub, where awe awaits.
චන්දුරුසුමේ කාගෙන් මන අපේ සිංහ TV සඳහා සුපිරි ඩීල්.
Sadaharita Plantations Limited, celebrating 22 years of your trust.
Crunchy goodness for hunger on the go.
World Bank Vice President for South Asia Martin Racer paid a courtesy call on Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya at Parliament to discuss Sri Lanka's development priorities. A major focus of the discussion was enhanced access to quality education, particularly through the technical and vocational education and training sector, with both parties emphasising the importance of aligning the TVET sector with mainstream education to create diverse career pathways for students. Another critical topic was gender equality in the workforce, where both parties recognized the need for policy interventions and support systems to enhance women's inclusion in economic activities. Taking to X, World Bank VP Martin Racer commended the Prime Minister's leadership in ensuring equal opportunities for all children and affirmed the bank's readiness to support Sri Lanka. Following the conclusion of World Bank Vice President for South Asia Martin Racer's two-day visit to Sri Lanka, the World Bank issued a statement highlighting positive discussions. The statement outlined the key areas of focus during the visit, which included the government's commitment to poverty eradication, digital development and the Clean Sri Lanka initiative. The World Bank reaffirmed its support in these areas with plans to finance 3 major projects over the next 3 months, totaling $200 million. These projects will support rural development and education and establish a facility to attract private investment in renewable energy. In Parliament today, Minister of Justice Harshana Nanayakara stated that the Cabinet paper to abolish the Prevention of Terrorism Act will be presented to the Cabinet of Ministers in the coming week. He made this statement in response to a query by opposition legislator Janendra Kumar Ponnambalam. Meanwhile, the adjournment debate regarding government's Clean Sri Lanka project continued for the second day.
There are numerous lands under the jurisdiction of the Lands Reforms Commission. However, we currently lack a comprehensive record or statistics on the exact number of lands under the LRC. Is it possible to determine the total number after conducting a thorough analysis?
What
the member says is accurate. The first question I raised with the LRC after assuming office was about the number of lands under its purview. At the time, there was no clear answer. Additionally, there are complexities regarding the size and classification of the lands under the LRC. Due to persistent insufficiencies in the operation of the Commission, the LRC is not fully aware of all the lands under its management. It is crucial that we formalize this process, and we are actively working on it. A carbon fertilizer project funded by the LRC was initiated but subsequently halted following a cabinet decision. We have appointed a committee to investigate the reasons behind the project's failure and the associated misconduct. While While we acknowledge that the committee's progress has been slow, we are taking the necessary measures to address the issue.
Last year, the Urume Deed awarding project was implemented and deeds were distributed. However, the recipients were primarily individuals who already held Jayabhumi or Swarnabhumi deeds. Many have returned their Jayabhumi or Swarnabhumi deeds in exchange for Urume deeds. Are there any plans to redistribute these Urume deeds to them?
For lands under the LRC on which these houses have already been built, the deeds are ready. However, the distribution has been delayed due to ongoing investigations. At present, we are focusing on the release of smaller land parcels which are scheduled to be distributed to citizens. A significant issue exists with the free land deeds issued under the Urume program. These deeds have no conditions attached, allowing recipients to sell, transfer or misuse the land. LRC officials had advised against proceeding with this program due to the risks involved. Since around 27,000 deeds have already been distributed, the issue has become more complex. Nevertheless, we are actively addressing it and hope to arrive at a solution soon after consulting with experts.
අද මේ විවාදයට එකතු වෙමින් විවිධ ශේෂ්ත්‍රවල දුක් ගැනවිලි ගණනාවක් ඉදිරිපත් කරමින්
I would like to draw your attention to several matters in today's debate. Recently, there has been an increase in murders and activities related to illegal drugs. Therefore, focusing on law and order, I urge the government to take necessary actions to address this issue. Citizens who have been affected by the passport issue continue to suffer. The government has failed to provide a resolution. Although the physical lines have disappeared, a new online queue has been introduced.
S2කට පේන දීර්ඝ පෝලිම වෙනුවට ඔන්ලයින් පෝලිමක් දැන් මේ අවස්ථාවේ නිර්මාණය වෙලා තිබෙනවා.
There is an entity that requires cleaning under the Clean Sri Lanka initiative, the Sri Lanka Cricket Board. Currently, the Ministry of Sports is asking the Cricket Board for funds to support other sports. There has been no mention of Shami Silva recently. I would like to ask why the government remained silent on this matter.
We are thoroughly investigating all sports and uncovering fraudulent activities that have taken place. Unlike previous ministers, we will not be anyone's pawn, so there is no need for concern.
While we can forgive certain major criticisms of the UNP, SLPP, former President Ranil Wickremesinghe and Mahinda Rajapaksa for the economic destruction they caused, there are major harms they have caused to society that cannot be undone in a short period.
So if you take, for example, one of the biggest issues that face the Tamil people is this godforsaken Prevention of Terrorism Act. It is a law that the JVP itself, whom I not self-condemn, and what was said at the time of elections and before was that the PTA will be repealed. Now I quite understand that to repeal a law you will need some time to come up with a new law, if in case you do. I don't believe you do, but if in case the government thinks that they need one, you might take some time. The point here is the law is so draconian, and you say that it is draconian because it is so wide in possible applicability that the police will misuse it. They will always misuse it. That has been the history of this terrible law. And even if your government wishes to be otherwise, the law is applied by the police and they continue to misuse it. And that is my point.
You raised a very valid point about the PTA. I assured you that a cabinet paper will be put on for the formulation of a committee and to abolish the PTA. And now that cabinet paper is being prepared. Hopefully in the next parliament session, I'll be able to confirm with you that the cabinet approval has been given for the abolition of the PTA and to bring in an ATA which consumes national.
Fast track your career from O levels with eSoft.
ඩයිබටිසෝල් සීනිවලින් පරිස්සම් වන ඔබට අමතක නොවන පෝෂණය.
ප්‍රයිම් ගෲප් ලංකාවේ ප්‍රථම වතාවට හඳුන්වා දෙන ලෑන්ඩ් ලීසින් ලේසියෙන් මීටමක්.
Single 1111 up to 60% off from the 11th November to the 17th of November.
Kalani wire කිසිගින්නක් නැහැ.
කිසිගින්නක් නැහැ. Kalani Fire Shield Wire.
President Anura Dissanayake emphasized the importance of extending the benefits of urban-centric economic activities to the grassroots level and the necessity of an economic plan that ensures equitable distribution across all provinces. During a discussion regarding the formulation of the 2025 budget, the President highlighted the need to address deficiencies in existing welfare distribution mechanisms, stressing the need to identify the genuinely deserving communities. Meanwhile, in a separate separate update, the President instructed the Upasampada Vinay Karma ceremony of the Sri Lanka Rama Nisek to be conducted under state sponsorship. A discussion was held today at the Presidential Secretariat on the 74th Upasampada Vinay Karma ceremony of the Sri Lanka Raman Nisek. The National Upasampada Vinay Karma ceremony, organised biennially by the Raman Nisek, is scheduled to take place from the 30th of June to the 5th of July this year at the Punyavardhanarama Vihara in Vijitapura, Palugaswewa. This grand ceremony, which will ordain over 250 novice monks, will be conducted under state sponsorship. President Anura Dissanayake has instructed officials to ensure that all necessary facilities are provided for the ceremony.
Traditions play a vital role in upholding the virtues of a country. Traditions are imperative to transform the society for the better. Traditions combined with Buddhist teachings are the foundation of the strong and stable society we aspire to create. However, if those traditions and this foundation collapse, it will result in the decline of the society. Therefore, it is the responsibility of government officials, clergy, and lay members of the general public to ensure the safety of these traditions in order for them to be passed on to the future generations. The Upasampada Vinaya Karma ceremony, which is of great importance, is one of the most prominent ceremonies in Buddhism. The cessation of ordained monks would mean the dissolution of the Buddhist institution itself. Therefore, it is imperative that we preserve this tradition and carry it forward with honor. As the government, it is our duty to provide the required arrangements to ensure that the ceremony is conducted without any disruptions. The ceremony will be carried out in a dignified manner under state sponsorship.
Meanwhile, in a separate update, a preliminary discussion was held yesterday at the Presidential Secretariat with officials from the Ministry of Finance regarding the formulation of the 2025 budget. The discussion focused on the importance of establishing an efficient and productive economic system, emphasizing the necessity of strengthening public transportation and optimizing the utilization of decentralized funds allocated to members of parliament. The meeting explored government intervention and steps needed to improve public transportation by providing essential facilities. Discussions were also held on regulating the rice stocks held by producers and ensuring that loans provided to rice millers for purchasing paddy are repaid within a year. The President emphasized the importance of extending the benefits of urban-centric economic activities to the grassroots level and actively involving those communities in the process, highlighting the need for an economic plan that ensures equitable distribution across all provinces. He also pointed out deficiencies in the existing welfare distribution mechanisms, stressing the need to identify the genuinely deserving communities and expedite the delivery process to ensure timely support. During the meeting of the Committee on Public Finance, it was revealed that the persisting shortage of rice is attributed to the deficit of 1 million metric tons of paddy last year. Meanwhile, speaking to media, Deputy Minister of Land and Irrigation Dr. Susil Ranasinghe assured that relief will be extended to the farmers whose crops were destroyed due to heavy flooding following adverse weather. Meanwhile, several parties, including farmers' associations, called for a guaranteed price for paddy during the Maha season to prevent the issue of rice prices from aggravating in future. Heavy rain slashed many areas of the country during the past few weeks, prompting heavy flooding and resulting in massive crop destruction. The Ampara and Batticaloa districts suffered tremendously due to crop destruction, as over 3,000 acres of land remain submerged in Ampara. Meanwhile, nearly 1,000 acres of land in the Digavapi area in Ampara were destroyed as the Senanayaka Samudra reservoir reached spill levels following the torrential rains. Deputy Minister of Land and Irrigation Dr. Susil Ranasinghe expressed views on the crop destruction. Once
the floodwaters recede, we expect to direct the officials of the Ministry of Agriculture to conduct an assessment to evaluate the crop destruction. Following that, relief will be provided to farmers who suffered losses due to the impact of the adverse weather patterns.
Meanwhile, several parties, including farmers' associations, point out that a guaranteed price should be set for paddy during the Maha season to prevent the issue of rice prices from aggravating in future. During the meeting of the Committee on Public Finance, it was revealed that the shortage of 1 million metric tons of paddy during the last paddy harvest resulted in the current rice shortage.
During 2023-24, the annual production of paddy was 4.3 million metric tons. However, the issue was that there was a deficit of about 1 million metric tons of paddy during last year. No, this was an issue related to productivity. This year too, we raised concerns over the productivity of resources. Paddy production will decrease if productivity declines. These issues are mostly linked with the weather patterns. This year too, heavy rains occurred during the harvesting period. Someone has purchased this stock of paddy. He is planning to sell the stock once the prices are increased. A certain third party has paid a farmer to keep the stock of paddy with them. However, we cannot intervene in this matter since the farmer has this stock of paddy. We are currently registered in the names of wholesale collectors. We believe that we will obtain the accurate data this time.
Meanwhile, the Ceylon Chamber of Coconut Industries urged government to permit the import of 200 million coconuts within the next few months to alleviate a possible shortage. President of the Ceylon Chamber of Coconut Industries, Jayantha Samarakon, said the major reason for the current shortage is the spike in fertilizer prices. He warned that if coconut stocks needed for the coconut-based export industry are not imported immediately, Sri Lanka could lose approximately $1 billion in revenue.
3-4 ඇතුළත අපිට පොල් ගෙඩි මිලියන 200කට සමාන වෙන විදිහට පොල් මද හරි වියලු පොල් මද හරි පොල් කිරි හරි එලිගහපු පොල් ගෙඩි හරි රටට ආනයනය කරන්න අවසරය ලබා දෙන්න කියලා අපි රජයෙන් ඉල්ලලා තියෙනවා.
සාවද්‍ය පුවතක් පොල් ගෙඩි මිලියන 200ක් ආනයනය කිරීමට රජය සැරසෙයි කියන මාතෘකාව යටතේ ලංකාවේ පොල් නිෂ්පාදනය අර්බුදවලට ලක් වුණා. මොකද රටේ ජාතික සැලැස්මක් සහිතව සිද්ධ කරපු නැති නිසා සාමාන්‍ය පොල් ගහක පළදාව ගෙඩි 50ක වගේ සීමාවක තියෙයි. දැන් තියෙන අර්බුදය තමයි දේශීය පොල් පරිභෝජනයට පොල් ලබා ගැනීමත් අපයුමේ අඩුවීමත් නිසා අපනයන කර්මාන්තයත් අර්බුදයට ලක් වෙලා අපි ගෙදර පරිභෝජනය කරන පොල් ගෙඩියත් රුපියල් 200 ගානකට ගියා. ඉතින් මෙන්න මේ අර්බුදය විසඳ ගන්න තමයි ඕන් ඉල්ලීමක් කරලා තිබ්බේ. ඔවුන්ගේ අපනයන සඳහා අවශ්‍ය කරන පොල් කිරි පොල් මද ආනයනය කරලා අපනයනය සඳහා මේ සඳහා ලබා දෙන්න කියලා අර පොල් ගෙඩි මිලියන 200ක් ප්‍රමාණයේ මද සහ කිරි ගෙන්නන්න දෙන්න කියන ඉල්ලීම තමයි උන් ඊයේ කරේ. මොකද හාල් වගේ අමාරු වැටෙන්න අවශ්‍ය නැහැ. අපිට හරියට දත්ත අපි හොයාගෙන අපි කල් තියා තීරණ ගත්තොත්.
In your weather update tonight, the Department of Meteorology has observed a reduction in the incessant rainfall that pounded several areas of Sri Lanka during the past few days. Accordingly, the department forecasts fairly heavy rains above 75 millimeters tomorrow in the eastern Uva and southern provinces and in the Matale, Nuwara and Polonnaruwa districts. The Met Department further noted that fairly strong winds of 30 to 35 kilometers per hour can be expected at times over the central hills and in the northern, north central, eastern and northwestern provinces and in the Matale, Hambantota and Monaragala districts. Meanwhile, the Disaster Management Centre noted that over 16,000 individuals belonging to 5,759 families remain affected due to the heavy downpours that persisted during the past few weeks. A new traffic violation management software equipped with advanced technological improvements for ease of use was launched yesterday under the patronage of Acting Inspector General of Police Priyantha Veerasurya. According to the police, this software will be implemented within the CCTV division to take legal action against drivers who do not adhere to traffic regulations. Sri Lanka Police will issue penalty notices to vehicle owners for traffic violations captured through CCTV systems installed primarily in Colombo and surrounding cities. The new software has been introduced to address these difficulties and streamline the process. Welcome back. The Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development has signed a revised agreement with Saudi Arabia's Fund for Development for $10.5 million to recommence construction of the Kurinchakani Bridge in Trincomalee. The revised agreement will entail the allocation of the remaining funds of the Peradeniya Badulla Chankaladi Road development project towards the construction of the Kurinchakani Bridge. The Ministry of Finance noted that this project aims to facilitate the transport and business needs of approximately 100,000 residents in the Trincomalee district. The agreement was signed by Secretary to the Minister of Finance Mahinda Sirivardana and the Saudi Fund for Development Director Abdul Mohsin Al Mudullah. The Colombo Bourse closed in green today with the all-share price index recording significant gains once again. The SPI increased by 231.64 points to close at 16,828.80, a new all-time high. Meanwhile, the S&P Sri Lanka 20 gained 91.21 points to close at 5,138.66, which is also a new high for the index. Market turnover stood at 10.6 billion rupees. The banking sector was the top contributor to the turnover, followed by the food, beverage and tobacco sector. Foreign participation in the market activity remained at subdued levels, with foreigners closing as net sellers. Up next, we have Minal Vikramge from Capital Alliance with some thoughts on the current status of the economy in our next segment, Economic Outlook.
Taking a look at tea production, in November 2024, the Sri Lankan steel production saw a year-on-year increase brought on by improved demand conditions. Rubber production also demonstrated a notable year-on-year improvement in November. Meanwhile, coconut production continued to decline, registering an year-on-year drop over the first 11 months of 2024, including November. On the domestic financial front, the weekly average weighted prime lending rate, or the AWPR, for the week ending January 17, 2025, recorded a slight decrease of 9 basis points to 8.65% compared to the previous week. The average weighted call money rate, or the AWCMR, remained stable at 8% during the same period.
Welcome back. In international news, US President Donald Trump signed more decisive executive orders today, vowing swift action on some of his top campaign issues. Among the directives that have gained the most publicity are an immigration crackdown and rollbacks of some climate-friendly policies. Trump also signed executive orders to end diversity, equity and inclusion programs within the federal government.
Donald Trump signed more executive actions today following yesterday's orders to withdraw the United States from the World Health Organization and the Paris Climate Deal and crack down on immigration. He signed a largely symbolic memorandum that he described as directing every federal agency to combat consumer inflation. Trump is easing regulatory burdens on oil and natural gas production, something he promises will bring down costs of all consumer goods. He is specifically targeting Alaska for expanded fossil fuel production. On trade, the president said he expects to impose 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico starting from the 1st of February. Additionally, Trump declared an energy emergency and said he will eliminate what he calls Biden's electric vehicle mandate. Trump has halted federal government hiring, excepting the military and other parts of government that went unnamed. He added a freeze on new federal regulations while he builds out his second administration. He is also rolling back protections for transgender people and terminating diversity, equity and inclusion programs within the federal government. Meanwhile, President Trump issued executive orders on the death penalty, directing the Attorney General to take all necessary and lawful action to ensure that states have enough lethal injection drugs to carry out executions. Separately, Trump ordered an end to federal cases against individuals whom he called political opponents of the Biden administration.
And that's all for tonight. Thank you for joining and have a good night.